Patricia Fears, pastor of the Fellowship Baptist Church in Northwest Washington, D.C. On Juneteenth, the proclaimed official end to slavery, I'm inviting all people of faith and of good conscience to seek out and engage in authentic liberation activities for Black people. Systemic racism has been a part of this country for over 401 years. It has been a stain that must be removed. Racism does not allow people to live out their divine purpose. So I'm asking you to join together with me, with your voice and with your vote, to invoke lasting change. Black lives do matter.
Africans in America have always had to deal with delay, denial, and the death of our dreams when it came to anything that suggested that our humanity was not tied to the whims of whites who controlled our bodies through the burdens laid on us through the cruel treatment in bondage, their structural plantation system enforced by policies and wicked laws for hundreds of years. Then on January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the final Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all persons held as slaves within the rebel states, that's the Confederate States, are and henceforth shall be free. The news of freedom was delayed for 250,000 enslaved people living in Texas. They had already been freed in 1863, but they did not know it. Delay, denial, and the death of our dreams. None of them were aware of it, and no one was in a rush to inform them of their freedom. So on June 19th, 1865, in Galveston, Texas, some 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, the people of Texas, our African ancestors, were informed that all slaves are free. Our African ancestors were not interested in staying on the plantations and now becoming employees, hired labor, as it was suggested by the General Orders Number 3, that freedmen were advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. Our African ancestors scattered. It did not matter how much money was involved in them to be hired now by the same white folks who whipped their backs, hung them on trees, cut their limbs off their bodies if they tried to escape, exhibited the most extreme forms of hypersexuality by sodomizing and raping women and men and children. In fact, some were leaving while Major General Gordon Granger was making his statement. He hadn't even finished. Can you see them? They're leaving, they're scattered. Our African ancestors couldn't even wait, they were leaving. So as we commemorate Juneteenth on this June 19th day of 2020, we can never let delay lead to denial of who we are, the Imago Dei, made in the very image and likeness of God, and what we can accomplish if we refuse to let anyone or anything kill our dreams. I'm Dr. Lewis Tate, pastor of the Village Church. Black Lives Matter.
Black lives do matter.
Black Lives Matter.
We Black Lives Matter free.
We must continue to fight for our liberation.
When there's an end to racism and white supremacy,
justice will prevail and love may abound.
That's the significance of Juneteenth.
"100 years before I was born, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation and freed the slaves. But the news did not immediately translate to everyone. So on June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger rode into town to inform a community of slaves in Galveston, Texas, that were still operating as slaves, that they were free. In fact, they had been freed for 2.5 years. Now, here we are 155 years later, and it still feels like the news has not translated. This time, not to Black folks, but to others who are determined to convince us that we are not free. Not free to walk down the street, not free to lay in our beds, not free to play video games in our own homes, not free to drive our cars, not free to sit in a park, not free to enter our own homes where we pay the mortgage, not free to sit in a dorm where we are the student. 155 years later. This time, nobody's coming to tell us we're free. Instead, they are going to extra lengths to try to prove to us that we are not. But we know better. We know the truth. And Juneteenth is a reminder of that truth.
Good day. I am Reverend Dr. Christopher Zacharias of John Wesley AME Zion Church, a church charged for pursuing spiritual and social freedom of African American people and all people. Juneteenth is a celebration and remembrance of freedom of enslaved African Americans in the state of Texas, the last state to end slavery. As a people and as a pastor, I am honored that achievement while purposely pursuing today more civil rights equality of freedom for our people. At an alarming rate, Black lives are still haunted by modern-day slavery of other forms of lynching through gun violence, through police chokeholds, through police shootings that lead to more deaths of Black Americans. As a pastor and community leader, I am dedicated to focus my time to be a difference maker in fostering more equality for people of color, gender, and gender preference. I encourage you to join the fight with us and let us unite against racism everywhere and upon anyone. Remember, for all lives to matter, all races must say and fight for that Black lives matter.
Peace and blessings, everyone. I hope your day is shining brightly, and I hope that you are rejoicing with the liberation movement that's flowing across the planet right now. Juneteenth is another celebration of liberation when African Americans were freed from an oppressive relationship from the land here in the United States. Now we are free to cultivate strength, spiritual strength from the land. We are free to have a harmonious and abundant relationship with Mother Earth because we know how to work with her and not against her. And as we strengthen our relationship with the land, we can regenerate wealth that we pass on for generation after generation after generation. That's the significance of Juneteenth. Peace and blessings.
People all over the world are directing their energies this Juneteenth anniversary towards ending the lingering effects of slavery that still compromise our liberation and make it difficult for all people to enjoy the fruits of this democracy. Over 155 years ago, there were those who remained enslaved despite the Emancipation Proclamation. It took 2.5 years, 30 long months of suffering under the foot of oppression, family breakups, whips and chains, torture, and forced free labor before the enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, were liberated by the Union Army. It took the Union Army to go into Texas, take control of the state, and liberate enslaved people. Look at where we are today, where the military was used to harass peaceful protesters and to create a photo op for the man in the White House. We must continue to fight for our liberation and justice for all people.
I'm Reverend Dr. Wanda Thompson. I'm speaking to you today to speak about the importance of Juneteenth in our community. As you know, this was the day legally that slavery was abolished in our country. However, we are quite aware that that did not end racial injustice, inequality, and inequity. This year, it's even more important for us to discuss and to talk about and to hold up Juneteenth because the occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest is staging a political rally, a campaign rally for his benefit in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where many years ago in this month, more than 300 Black men, women, and children were slaughtered, and Black Wall Street was destroyed. We remember Juneteenth because it's an official day. But the fight is not over. We continue to fight so that gains that we have made will not be overturned, that we will not regress in our laws and policies in this country, and that we can look forward to a day when justice for all is really true. So on this Juneteenth, I want to encourage each and every one to engage in civic discourse, to understand that it's our role to hold our elected leaders accountable, to strive for policies and legislation that benefit our community, and certainly, and particularly this year, to vote. We remember and honor our ancestors, and we realize that the fight is now up to us, that we must pick up the mantle, we must pick up the blood-stained banner, and we must continue to press forward, that we achieve justice and equality for our people. So, with Juneteenth, let us be sure to educate everyone about its significance. And let us rebuke the actions of 45 who seek to diminish and disrespect us on this date. I greet you in the precious name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who always stood on the side of the oppressed. And I want you to know that this is a righteous fight for us to gain all that is due us. And so let us press forward. Let us celebrate Juneteenth for what it is. And let us march forward, that we ensure that future generations in our community will live freely, that justice will prevail, and love may abound. God bless you.
I'm Rabbi Joseph Berman, and I'm the rabbi of the New Synagogue Project in Washington, D.C. And on this Juneteenth, on this celebration of the end of slavery in the United States, I pray and I commit myself to action to help eradicate the racism against Black people that is alive and well in our country. I ask HaGoel, the Redeemer, who made the Exodus possible, to give me the courage and the strength and the perseverance to be of service in the movement that is seeking justice for George Floyd and for countless others taken by police violence. To be of service in the movement working to end police brutality and to root out systemic racism. May this day bring us closer to the day when there is true equity and true equality, when there's an end to racism and white supremacy, and where there is safety and liberation for all of us.
John chapter 8 records Jesus as speaking to believers, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Regardless of how they try to steal our freedom, we free. We Black Lives Matter free. We Barack and Michelle Obama free. We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around free. We Stacey Abrams, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Kamala Harris, and Val Demings free. We Sojourner, Nanny, Harriet, we be dead or we be free, free. We are Muriel Bowser, changing the address of the White House to 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza, free. So, happy Juneteenth 2020. For in the midst of a pandemic, we are seeing a revolution that is marking a new emancipation, one that is declaring with the chorus of the universe, the chorus of the world, the chorus of the universe, we free. Now go celebrate. Happy Juneteenth and wear a mask.